Welcome to the Real Estate Dads, where we make content for dads and we raise capital for real estate. We've got our guest, Danny Flores. Danny is a syndicator. He owns over 1,800 units and his company is Prime Capital. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Max. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we finally got you in. So, I was so bummed when we had to cancel the last interview. And for those people who were watching, I got deathly ill. Not actually deathly ill, but you hear about it. My wife took our son to a 3-year-old's birthday party, and she came home with a stomach bug. I got the stomach bug, and we had to cancel our day of shoots. So
it happens. It happens.
It does. It does. So, Danny, we can just jump into it. So, tell me. Let's just get to the start of it. When did you start Prime Capital?
Well, we started. I've had multiple different companies and entities, but we started buying multifamily in 2000. We did our first acquisition. It was personal money at the time here in California. I saved $64,000 at the time. So this was over 20 years ago when $64,000 actually went a longer way.
Sure.
And properties were so much cheaper here. I think somewhere around $50,000 a door. I bought a fourplex here in Norwalk, California. And a year and a half later, I sold it for $100,000 profit and started doing exchanges, saving money, doing exchanges, saving money. And just kind of the portfolio grew. To the point where in 2006, I put together a property management company because I was using it to manage our portfolio.
Sure.
And because I had the infrastructure, I just said, why not just do third-party management at the same time? LA County, Orange County. Grew that company, and I ended up selling it about 4 years ago. So I exited that. California is just too tough to deal with.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
It's been California's been a rough slog on the business front.
It has. I mean, it was a great market, but with when it went under rent control in 2020, and then with all the restrictions on evictions and rent increases lacking, you have insurance that continues to go up, you have maintenance that continues to go up, property taxes go up. And if rents can't keep up, you can't keep up with the maintenance of the properties.
I'm really in agreement.
Yeah.
I find it in California, not just the rent control, but even the fees and the local city ordinances that you have to keep up with, whether it's, we've got, in one of our assets, the city wants us to include for them, a list of our personal assets on site because they want to know if we're running out any Airbnbs,
right?
Which we're not, but we still have to file these other documents just to prove that. We have to do special reports on the stairwells and the roof because new ordinance came through for that. We have to have individual city permits for a property management company that we don't own, but just showing that we have one. We have. I'm trying to think of all the different documents we have to go through. The eviction process for residents who don't pay is a nightmare.
Yeah,
and I look at this stuff. And it's just so funny because, in our assets in Phoenix, none of these issues come up.
Right.
None of them. And it makes operating a building significantly more affordable, which we're able to actually pass on to the residents, actually.
Right.
And that's something that we really appreciate. But in the state of California, it has not been that way. And it used to be that I used to look at California and say, oh, the media makes it look really bad. It's not really this bad in regards to the sentiment.
Right.
But I'll tell you, it sure feels like that now.
Yeah.
And I now am very hesitant for deals within the state.
We sold everything about 2 years ago, everything in California.
Great. We probably did really great on it.
Yeah. We did fine. We exited and put the money elsewhere. It's just too tough. We actually see pricing of units per door coming down in California. I don't know if it's a sign of the times or if it's the reality that less investors want to invest in California. I have talked to the brokers because I know a lot of brokers here, and they say that the investors that they know, kind of like the original guys, are investing outside of California. They say it's a lot of the new investors that are buying properties here. They don't know them. They're from somewhere else because maybe they don't know the nuances.
What's funny about the rent control initiative is that, they view it as kind of expense management where they're like, hey, we're going to cap this expense, your living expense, we're going to cap it. Except as an operator of a business, we've got lots of expenses. We've got maintenance expenses, we've got payroll expenses, we've got tax expenses, we've got all of the insurance expenses, which is that one's the one that's the biggest percentage increase right now.
Right.
But they don't cap those.
No.
They just cap the one on living expenses that people are going to live in, and they don't recognize how damaging that is for the entire community.
Right.
You want to see a city's death sentence, rent control.
Right. But see, here's one thing that nobody's talking about. If they wanted to reduce the cost of living rent-wise, they should just make it easy for developers to build.
You want to know why they can't?
Why?
Attorneys.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. When it really comes down to it, the cities and the states are restricted from building units because they end up with a couple different things. Private interest groups who come in to say, hey, we don't want you developing this area because we want to protect it or whatever it is. We don't want you building here because we don't want to influence or increase the number of people who live in this particular area. So they hire attorneys who then have to fight the cities for these things.
Yeah.
Or you end up with a situation where you have someone who sues a city because there was something, this particular pipe was exposed and someone walked along the street and they hit their knee on it and they got an injury, so they sued the city. So what do? The city makes a new ordinance for that pipe. You know how you can't have any of these things anymore. All of a sudden it's a new fine or new fee. Hey, if you want to have this done, you have to pay us a fee to have the city inspector come out to make sure there's nothing else you can do.
Right.
And eventually they have so many of these different legal issues that the development pipeline becomes thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner until eventually you can't build anything.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's attorneys, it's city fees. I shouldn't say it's just attorneys. The other item in regards to these cities is, you have to have a permit to own a dog. You have to have a permit to do whatever it is. You have a permit to operate an apartment building. You have to have permits to put in the right kind of insulation. You have to have a permit to install a water heater, a permit to install, whatever it is. And then people go, well, why doesn't it want to build in California? So are you joking me? I have to spend, 6 months of my time down at the city office just filling out paperwork for stuff that every other state allows us to do simply.
Yeah.
So I'm in complete agreement with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there you go. We just solved the problem in California.
I know, right? If only it was that easy. So, going back to your portfolio, what states are you in now?
We are out of California. We're in Arizona, Florida, Texas, and North Carolina.
Okay, great. And where is your allocation of those units? You have 1,800-ish right now units?
Correct. Yes, they're kind of almost evenly spread between the states, and in Florida and Texas, we have partnerships there. And then the ones we're very active in Arizona, we like the Arizona market and we understand it very well. We know we have great broker relationships and we have access to off-market deals.
Great.
So,
so question for Arizona, and I have experience with our own assets, but what are your insurance costs for your deals in those markets?
They're reasonable. We just did some renewals and we're getting maybe 12%, 14% increases.
Oh, that's not too bad. How much is that per door?
You know what? I don't know per door.
Okay.
But it's reasonable, right? Compared to other states where you're double, triple the insurance cost.
The last deal we did in Phoenix was a 1987 build in Papago, and our insurance cost per door was, I think, $921 per unit.
Yeah,
which compared to Texas and Florida, I've heard that number is $1,600 up to $2,000 per door.
Yeah, it's super expensive insurance. You know, they keep the hurricanes and the floods. I mean, the insurance companies aren't in business to lose money.
No.
So they kind of spread it out and make sure that everybody contributes to the kitty. Make sure. It is what it is. Cost of doing business, we got to have it. Got to have the insurance. The mortgage companies require it from us, and we want to, be protected. We want our investors to be protected as well. So,
do you think that's going to cause an increase in rental rates in those markets?
They have to.
Right.
They have to. Even though the market, say specifically in Arizona area, market's still soft. You can't really increase rents, but you got to do the best you can to control expenses right now.
Yeah, that's really the reality of it. The rents have to go up, but that doesn't mean the margins increase for actual ownership returns.
No.
That's I guess I will touch on this a little bit. When we're talking about California, the sentiment within the state of California is that landlords make a lot of money. And the reality is that's just not the case.
No.
The margins have gotten so thin.
Yep.
And I think this is one thing, going back to what we were talking about prior to we turned the cameras on. But a lot of my philosophical belief on pausing our acquisitions, because we've been really very intentionally not been buying yet, is because I haven't felt like the spreads for returns have really been that on par for the last year. Or actually, I shouldn't say last year. I think the last several years. We've had cap rate compression from 2013 all the way up to 2020. We had a non-standard boom that happened in 2021, first part of 22.
Reduction of interest rates helped drive that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I would say the reduction in interest rates, kind of threw gasoline on an already compressing cap rate market.
Yep.
And then, you had these deals where you had every asset in the market trading at the exact same cap rate. Core deals, value add deals, whatever they were trading at the same cap. And, and if you're buying a deal that's a value add deal, you might have been fine buying it at a 3 cap because you knew you were going to stabilize it.
Correct.
At a 6 or a 6.5 or whatever it was. But when that spread disappeared, you looked at these deals that you were buying at the 3 cap and you were, wait a minute, I bought it at a 3 cap. And what am I really, even if it's a core asset, 3 cap, whatever it is, is the spread on what we're making on cash flow actually worth it? And the question is really, well, potentially not.
No.
And that's where I really look at right now. And I go, the spreads can't maintain this thin margin.
Right.
And they need to come back to the point that they actually make sense for investors to go in and buy those. And this is the reason why, very specifically for our portfolio, we're exclusively buying core and core plus, and that's it.
Right.
So, and there's reasons that, we believe in that particular product type. But yeah, the costs in the market from an inflationary standpoint, I don't really think are any way stabilized. And they keep talking about that. And you see it on the news constantly. It's constantly talked about within the election season. And I just think, when they're talking about inflation, they're just completely lying to themselves. I really do.
Well, the numbers are there's too many carve-outs. Basically.
Oh yeah.
So when they say inflation is what it is, around 3%, hovering around that, but you go to the store and
doesn't look like 3.
Your shopping cart is half of what it used to be filled at, and you're paying twice as much. That's not how it really works, right?
Have you seen the guy at Costco?
No.
There's a guy who went through Costco and he took his. There have been guys who've gone through their shopping cart. So they go, hey, this is the same items I purchased 2 years ago.
Right.
And I just opened the same thing. And it looks like it's closer to some, on the items that he had, it ranged somewhere between 45 to like 70% on items.
That's inflation right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So well,
we're being fooled.
Are we, or are we not being fooled, but are we swimming in it? See, I don't feel like we're fooled. I feel like the reality is no one just knows what to do. Like I look at the government and they say these numbers and I go, well, they're saying that, but you and I are not alone in this conversation.
No, we're not. Yeah, no way. But the government's saying 3% and it's really 40, 60, depending on what you're buying, right?
Yeah.
The whatever goods you're buying, but wages don't go up that much either. And that's the problem.
Do you think taxes are a scam?
Well, we need to pay taxes because, we have to, have the military that supports and many other branches of government. Not that we need all of them, but they could probably be better used better. A lot of it gets wasted.
Yeah. I'm in agreement that we are supposed to have some taxes, but, I haven't felt good about how the government's been spending tax dollars for a long, long time now.
Yeah.
And there's been an argument that I've used with some individuals where if you remove the private sector from the US, you just have communism. You have a government, you've got no one that actually produces anything, and you've got central regulators who are just saying what the economy makes. And when you think about that, and you say, all right, well then wait a minute, well then where is the income coming from? Because government can't print its own money. They can do that. But outside of that, where are the tax dollars coming from? And it's coming from the private sector. And what that indicates is that all domestic spending on all the government payroll, government projects, U.S. infrastructure, all the international spending, whether that's wars, whatever dollars they're spending to foreign countries to stabilize them or doing whatever they're doing, 100% of that money comes from U.S. private business.
Right.
And, when you look at that, it's relatively staggering. It's something that you go, wow, this is really, how much are we really being fleeced by our government who's making it so difficult for us to live?
Yeah, they spend too much, they give too much, they print too much.
I call it income appropriation.
Yeah. Good way to put it.
Yeah.